I'm very excited to hear about what Therese Johnson and her guest Ed Bogle have to share. Therese is with Senior Care of Sacramento. She does placement. She is a placement agency, and I know she's going to be expanding throughout Northern California as well. So I'd like to go ahead and introduce Therese Johnson. Therese, how are you?
Hi, Jim. Thank you so much. I'm doing good.
Great. Well, I look forward to the content today. I know you were telling me a little bit about it, and this is information that is really important for people to hear. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. And I want to thank your guest, Mike, and his wife for serving our country. I know firsthand my son, is Jesse Silva, is also a veteran and served in the Army in Afghanistan and Iraq. And so I really appreciate them putting their lives on the line for us. So thank you very much to your guest today, too. My guest, Ed Bogle, is a professional, and I'm having him come on today because I really have so many clients that I see that just don't ask for help when they're in a caregiving situation. And like Jim always says, if you have a lot of money, you have a lot of choices. And if you don't have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of choices. But when it comes to caregiving, it strikes everybody of all levels of, doesn't matter where your station is in life. And so I really would like to hear from professionals like Ed and their experiences. And that's why I've invited Ed here today. Hello, Ed, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me okay?
I can. All right. So Ed is the Senior Expert Marketing Strategist at Ideation Edge Consultants, a brand development company, and he works closely with entrepreneurs in the health and wellness industry. So he's also very familiar with the health and wellness industry and the caregiving situation, and he knows this from not just from working as a business professional, but also on a personal level within his own personal experiences, and that's why I've invited him to here today. But he's an expert in what he does. He's worked with and served as a coach to 2 of Inc. Magazine's Entrepreneur of the Year regional winners and 3 companies in the Inc. Magazine's 100 fastest growing companies in the U.S. His work encompasses firms ranging from startups and emerging entities in the global 50 enterprises, as well as breakthrough thinking for high growth strategies, turnarounds, acquisitions, and mergers and capital formation. I mean, I could go on and on. Ed is highly qualified and has numerous credentials, but I really want to hear from him today regarding his personal experience as a caregiver. I know, Ed, that your wife suffered from stage 4 breast cancer, and she was diagnosed in 2004, and you had a long road ahead of you with being a caregiver for her all the way through to 2013. So why don't you tell us what happened in your wife's situation?
Well, yeah, she was diagnosed with the original cancer in 2004. That was a very rare and aggressive form of cancer, so they took a very rare and aggressive treatment pattern, which led to a lot of problems down through the years. And then in March of 2011, they had diagnosed that the stage 4 breast cancer had come back. And she kind of fought a long, hard battle with that until December of 2012, when she literally went down and never recovered and ultimately passed away in July 2013. So fortunately, I was self-employed and had the money to do this, but that didn't have anything to do with the stuff that I tell people about. I became the primary caregiver from about December. Go ahead.
And I know you've said that as an emotional caregiver, you wouldn't recommend anyone be the primary caregiver in this kind of situation. And why is that?
Well, because your emotions will affect your decision-making and that kind of stuff. There's a little bit of an analogy to running a company here. And great companies surround themselves with a great team. And I kind of thought I wore the big red S on the chest and was Superman, and I could handle all of this. And I had all this knowledge about healthcare and WellCare and that kind of stuff. And so I didn't have a team around me. And ultimately, I got my family involved, and then ultimately I worked with an organization. While they do hospice work, they do other things. And I waited honestly too long to bring them in. I should have brought that team in early because the knowledge base they had about emotions and treatment and what she was going to go through and how they could help was enormous. And I wish I'd have brought that in earlier than I did. I didn't bring them in until she was pretty critical, about 3 months before she passed away.
And I want our listeners to know that you're a big guy. You're 6'1", 213 pounds, in good shape, and you even had trouble dealing with the day-to-day care, the physical demand, especially in the last 7 to 8 months. You were telling me when you were sharing part of your story. So I think it's important that people know that invaluable information that those experienced hospice caregivers can share with you, and like you said, and help you get through that trying time and help in knowing what to expect. So what advice would you give to somebody that's facing a loved one that is going through a major life crisis like this after going through it yourself?
A couple of pieces to that. One, don't wait until they're critical, okay? Because once they become critical, you don't know, in her case, the oncologist did not know when she was going to pass away how long she was going to be with us, okay? And we really honestly didn't know for certain that she was going to pass away soon until about 3 to 4 weeks before she did. But the level of care that I had to deliver before that, and again, as Therese said, I'm a big guy. I could handle it. I was strong enough to be able to lift her and that kind of stuff. Most people wouldn't be able to handle that. And the other part of it is I just didn't know till I brought them in what all the emotional support they could give me, how they organized it. They met with my entire family, and we divided up the duties and kind of built that team that provided wonderful care for my wife all the way up to the end. And she was very lucid and alert up until about 2 weeks before she passed. And so getting that team involved earlier, getting the emotional support, but also understanding physically what she was going through. A lot of times in your doctor's offices, they don't share that with you. It's these teams of professionals that are dealing with someone that's ill, home care, in a hospice center, whatever. They have teams. They have people all the way through a chaplain that can really, really change the dynamics of that. And if I may add one more thing to that, what it allowed me to do was focus on my wife, not just on the caregiving side in terms of the physical needs, but also the emotional needs. And I will tell you that we had some of the most fabulous conversations in the weeks before she passed away. And I wouldn't have been there because it's too frustrating to do that. You don't want your loved one to be ill, so you're trying to fight and help them through the battle of maybe finding a cure, but at the same time, it's just very, very frustrating. And having those other people not only give physical support, but spiritual support, I'm telling you, worth its weight in gold.
Well, thank you so much Ed for sharing your experience, and your advice has been worth its weight in gold for our listeners too, and I hope they take your suggestions to heart because you've been there and you know what it's like. So also, if
Therese,
we have...
Let me add one more. If they think they're heading towards home care of their loved one, call these people immediately. Whether you think death is imminent or not, call the home care professionals, the hospice people, the home care professionals early on, the day you head home.
Absolutely, and not everybody also needs to wait for hospice till the end. If it's a diagnosis that's going to be years on, then you may need in-home care or assisted living, which is what we provide at Senior Care of Sacramento. So, but I would like our listeners to know if you are a professional and looking for a compassionate professional coach for your business, you can contact Ed at his website at www.ideationedge.com. Again, that's www.ideation, IDEATION, edge.com, or you can call him at 918-269-3449. Thank you so much, Ed, for being with us.
You are welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Therese Johnson, for bringing Ed to us. Very valuable information. And, of course, for local placement here in Sacramento,